Morning. Welcome to Overview Committee, September the 4th, 2025. We are live, if anybody wants to just check themselves. Good morning. I am Councillor Cathy Mason, the Chairman of the committee, and I would like to welcome you all to this meeting of the Overview Committee that is being broadcast live and recorded for publication. Item agenda number 1 is the minutes to the last meeting. So I would ask the committee to approve the minutes of the last meeting, please. Can we have a mover? Right, and do we have any, agenda item 2, do we have any apologies for absence, please?
We do. So we've got apologies from Councillor Stuart Bestwick for other reasons, and Councillor Jeanette Barlow is here for him today substituting. And we've got apologies from Councillor Brian Wheatcroft for medical/illness, and Councillor Jim Vernon is here substituting for him today. And apologies also from Councillor Clark, Dave Clark.
Yeah. Lovely, thank you. Agenda item number 3, are there any declarations of interest? If any councillor or officer has an interest in any matter on the agenda, you should declare now. Please raise your hand now if you have an interest to declare, and if you have an interest to declare, you should state what type of interest it is and give brief details. Do we have any declarations? Right. Agenda item number 4, the budget monitoring. I would like to welcome Councillor Stuart Matthews, of the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resource, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's my first time to the committee. I'm grateful to be given the opportunity to present Budget 3 Monitoring Report to the committee. The covering report sets out timelines to produce monthly in-year budget monitoring, as well as the process for reporting the information. Office should be congratulated because this council publishes monthly financial reports in the public domain. The epitome of good practice in openness and transparency, which I am keen to continue for all residents. Attached to Appendix A is a report for the period ending June 2025. This shows the negligible underspend of 0.2 million. It's currently projected against the budget approved by full council in February 2025, which is an improvement on period 2 year-end forecast position. I'll draw attention to the fact that early in the financial year, and so is subject to change as we progress through the year, colleagues will see in the report various actions that Cabinet members and officers undertake to manage the financial challenges faced by the council. Before I ask Nigel to add any additional information, I thought I'd mention our work on finding efficiencies. I know this is not strictly on the item, but I wanted to head off any rabbit holes colleagues may go down. Cabinet approved the establishment of the Cabinet Members Efficiency Working Group, and we are using this to coordinate the exploration of efficiencies across the council. This is our process by setting next year's budget. At the same time, as we identify any efficiencies, we will put them into place as we find them. We are looking at savings across our services from children's and families, adult and social care, right through to portfolio of finance and resources. Such areas where members and officers are already exploring, including savings in agency staff, subscriptions, use of printing. I'm a great advocate of going paperless, which will be a hot topic in the time to come. These savings are reflected in the year-end budget forecast for period 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I ask Nigel Stevenson, Service Director Finance, Infrastructure and Improvements, and our 151 officer. If he has anything further to add, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm grateful for Councillor Matthews' introduction. I know everybody seems to concentrate on the revenue budget, but it's also important to bring members' attention in terms of the issues around the dedicated schools budget and the high needs block. Last year there was an overspend on the high needs block, but there were sufficient reserves to cover that. Unfortunately, that has exhausted the reserves on the high needs block. So that's why there's a predicted overspend this year. As you'd expect, there was no overspend last year, that it would continue and worsen. And that's expected to be 31.1 million by the end of the year. There is a statutory override on Secretary of State, which allows us to hold a negative balance on the high needs block. It's unfortunate that we've joined the club effectively for all local authorities that have a negative balance on the high needs block. So ours is relatively small to some very large ones across the country. Also, as you'd expect in terms of this monitoring report, it covers the capital programme as well as the treasury management, which is the link between the capital programme and the revenue budget. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, into the recommendations on that report. And I'm going to need a second. It's basically just to accept it.
Yeah. She's getting to it. She'll get to it.
No, I was going to say, don't get to ask questions.
Yes, but yeah, we move the second recommendation. So I'll start with that, and then we have a discussion.
I beg your pardon.
And now I was going to over the floor to
Carry on. Carry on.
Yeah.
No, that was it. That was.
I'm going to say, if you have a question now, the floor is open to debate.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I will ask you a question then. Thank you. So I'm looking at page 12 on the summary position, and we've got the forecast for the year. If I'm reading this correctly, on transport and environment, we're forecasting a saving of about 324,000.
An underspend.
That's what I mean. Sorry, yeah, an
Yeah,
underspend. So this is the area where we're. So are we saying that all necessary things around, roads, etc., are going to be able to be done to enable us to actually save money in this area? And, why aren't we spending what we need to spend to get our roads in a decent position that they should be in? Because we all know we have things refused for being resurfaced, etc. And I'm sure we've all got several whole roads in our patches that could be actually resurfaced. So I've got a question around why there's such a saving in that area.
If I may, Madam Chair, yeah, the vast, if not all of the spend on the highway is in the capital programme,
Okay.
not on the revenue
Oh,
budget.
okay, fine. Yeah.
So that most of that revenue underspend is around home to school transport.
Okay.
Yeah, rather than actually spending on the highway. And if you look at the capital programme for transport and highway, which is about spending on the highway, there's no underspend anticipated on that.
Okay.
We are spending what we are being allocated.
Can I have a subsequent question then about, I thought school transport was a huge cost and kind of spiralling all the time. So it's interesting that then we're going to have an underspend in that area. Is that correct?
But the prediction around, because this is a forecast for the year
Yeah, of
end,
course.
and most of that around, and it is a very expensive area, you're quite right, in terms of SEND transport and home to school transport, but we base it on predictions of cost and numbers. So if the numbers of children requiring home to school transport don't come through as predicted, then you would anticipate that there would be an underspend.
Okay.
So that's what that reflects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the Cabinet Member and the Director for the report. Just two questions, if I may, based on the capital receipt monitoring on page 19. The chart, paragraph 38, shows huge capital receipts for 25-26. Presumably, Nigel, they're all based on Topwigay and the assets we sold up there. And then they plummet off a cliff compared to the huge figures of 25-26. What future plans have the new cabinet got to ensure that that is increased from the projection of about 20-odd million quid? You know, there's assets around the county that have stood empty, Gedling School since 2012. Let's get rid of it. I tried when I was the leader, so good luck to you. If you can do that, I will cheer you on. So I just want to know what plans we have, rather than relying on Topwigay, because that finishes in 27. What are we going to do to get those capital receipts up? Paragraph 40 says that the receipt forecast for this year is 33 million pounds. We're 21 million pounds short of that 6 months in. Are we confident, Cabinet Member Councillor Matthews, that within the next 5 months we'll hit that target? Thank you very much.
Again, if I may respond, and again, I'm grateful for the questions around capital.
Also about Gedling School.
Get it plugged, get it plugged.
No, listen, I've written it down, it's on, don't worry. We welcome any advice. Yeah, plug it any time.
And you're absolutely right in terms of it does look like quite a dramatic fall in terms of the capital receipts. So quite as anticipated, what will happen is we're working through the capital receipt strategy as we go through this budget cycle. So we'll know what the need is for capital receipts and therefore know what additional sales we need to make. Yep, there are lots of caveats in terms of getting capital receipts, as you know, Councillor, as you quite rightly say, in terms of it's both about whether the planning permission around that, in terms of the cycle of planning permission, as well as if the market. There's somebody who wants to buy the land. So I'm anticipating that as we go through the budget cycle, you'll see some different increases in the anticipated capital receipts in 27, 28.
Yeah. And Councillor Matthews, about the forecast, paragraph 40, are we confident about that?
Yeah, well, you've been at this. Things can change quite quickly and quite rapidly. So, we're reviewing that. Every week.
Again, it's one or two large capital receipts still in that plan, and if they may slip slightly, but that will be slippage, not unachievable of the entire capital receipt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Lawton.
Yeah, Nigel, SEND transport, allowing us to be able to hold the negative balance, government. The likelihood is they're going to rescind that ability. What impact will that have on the budget?
Yeah, so on the high needs block deficit, if you remember rightly, Councillor Lawton, that the statutory override was, everybody was staring it down that our statutory override was going to fall out.
Like Hampshire
which we're talking 200 or 300 million, which would put them into section 114.
Yeah, I'm not interested in Hampshire though. I'm interested in Nottinghamshire. What impact?
It's a smaller overspend, although it is worrying. I always class it as we're holding a deficit on behalf of the DFE rather than on the county. And quite rightly, there are in the autumn, we're expecting there'll be changes around the provision around SEND. I'm hoping the government will realise that they have to do something to tackle the deficits that are on across all councils in terms of the high needs block. Whether I'm confident or not, what will materialise, less so. It's taken a number of years to get to this position, and inevitably it will take a number of years to come out. It'll be about as the government got more money. Because
if I may, there's a follow-on from this, because the rumour out of government was that they were not going to carry on down the due process, and then they changed their mind, and then they changed their mind again. So we don't have a clue where we are with it.
I'm confident the government will eventually come up with something in the autumn, whether it's the panacea for local authorities with high needs deficits.
Yeah, my worry is we're going to let, in inverted commas, carrying a debt, which we're going to have to fund.
That's right. Yeah, well, we'll have to make sure that we've got enough positive balances elsewhere on the balance sheet to meet that negative balance. So at the moment, it's a small amount compared to our positive balances, but that's the worry that a lot of other authorities have got, where that negative balances are starting to become worrying.
time bomb.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Can I just ask, where you say we've got positive, or hopefully positive income elsewhere, we come back with budget items on a regular basis. So we will obviously get through cabinets and so on forewarning of any changes, because a week's a long time in politics, especially down London. We will be able to call basically an emergency meeting should we need to.
At 31, yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. At 31 million in terms of a forecast deficit, it's not an issue for the local authority. It's local authority for this year. That deficit would likely increase, again, double in another year unless there is additional funding provided by central government. Again, even around 60 odd million, there are enough positive balances elsewhere to actually balance that out.
Basically, that's what I want to know. We're not hitting no panic button.
Not in any immediate danger.
That's fair enough. And it's not good, but that's fair enough. Councillor Wilmot, you want to ask a question?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nigel, for the report. It's very thorough and very interesting, to say the least. It says in the report there's been an underspend of 0.2 million. However, when you compare that to the underspend on staff vacancies, that's where the reason behind that report has been an underspend. On portfolio variations, adult social care has 2.511 million overspend, communities and public health 486 million overspend, and economic development and asset management has a 418 million overspend. These, as everybody would say, they're a very, very large overspend. How is the council going to address this serious problem? And will it make sure they put enough money into the overspending portfolios so that these deficits do not continue? That's the first question. Council on the 27th of February.
Councillor Wilmot,
yeah.
Do one at a time, please, so that we can get a full answer on your first question.
That's the first question.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah, 118,000, yeah.
No, that's fine. Thank you, John. And it's the right question to ask around the management of overspends and underspends.
Yeah.
You will always get some unders and overspends as long as they're small amounts. To me, since we're managing the budget in a global position, I'm not too worried about an overspend of 400,000 in a department, in a portfolio, because you can see that there's sufficient underspends and other portfolios that cover it. Mm-hmm. But the one to hone down on is exactly what you mentioned there around adult social care, the 2.5 billion overspend. Yeah. And the problem with some of our demand-led budget, particularly in adult social care, is you can set a budget on some assumptions in terms of the number of older people and those with learning difficulties that you're going to look after, but you don't know who's going to turn up on the door and how much they can pay towards their care. And it's a forecast. So what we're seeing at the moment is the assumption that there's more people going to come in and need our support and care than when we set the budget in February. So it's how do we manage that, and how do we manage that risk? Some of that risk, if you can remember when we approved the budget in February, was around the general fund balance. We identified within the general fund balance a number of risk factors, and one of those was around care. But luckily enough, we've got other underspends we anticipate in central items, particularly business rates and Section 31 grants that we get from central government, that is enough to offset. At the moment, our prediction is, therefore, we think, although there'll be unders and overs and a significant one in adults, it will be balanced overall in terms of the council budget. But it's a warning around adult social care in terms of if there's an overspend anticipated in period 3 in this financial year, it will have a knock-on impact for next year's assumptions around the budget. Will probably need more money into adult social care than we were currently predicting when we agreed the budget.
My second question, Joe, is that the council on the 27th of February identified savings or approved savings of 5.5 million for delivery in 25-26. with more savings identified for the period 27-28. I just wondered how the state savings are going to be monitored. How are you going to report back and make sure these things happen?
Again, I'm grateful for your question, John. And again, that's why paragraph 20 and in this monitoring report, if there are anticipated unachievable savings or slippage in savings, we'll bring that to members' attention via that report. At the moment, at period 3, we're not anticipating any issues.
Thank you. Councillor Lord.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Nigel, the question really is based on the ruling group in this council identified at the beginning of the process and part and parcel of their manifesto promises that they intend to make considerable savings on throughout the authority, both from staffing, the contracts they have with outside suppliers, etc. I'm just wondering whether your department is actually monitoring what effect those issues are having on the budget and whether they are adding into the savings that are being made by this authority.
Yep, thank you for your question, Bruce. And again, I think I'll just add to what Councillor Matthews said in terms of his intro. Exactly, when we do find savings in the year, particularly around agency staffing, that is reflected in the year-end forecast. So if we've got more vacancies and we don't need agency work, then you'll see underspend. So I'll pick an example in terms of finance and resources. The underspend that's there is mostly staffing, but it's also because we've identified that we don't need to use the agency to cover it. We can be more efficient, and that is where we're monitoring. So those are appearing in the year-end forecast.
I've had a meeting this morning with Annie Gamble, HR, and we spent 15.8 million last year on agency staff. And we're trying to we're going to work a different way of working with agency staff where we monitor it, where we don't just bring them in and people forget about them. That seems to be a problem. Now, the good point about this, I spoke to her today, social workers are a big problem, as you'll know, Sam. So for the first time, she'd had 30 applications for social worker job. So I can't give you all the answers now, Sam. We have 4 months. But all I can tell you is that I'm trying to work in a different way of working, and I value like Gedling School. Mm-hmm. I value anybody's advice and knowledge to help us make this council a better council. But trust me, we're working in different ways of efficiency, not cutting. Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chairman, Councillor Matthews, I understand exactly what you're saying, but what I'm asking for is for that to be quantified.
Yeah.
What I don't want is, in inverted commas, pies in the sky. I want a quantification of it, and I think that quantification should come in front of this overview and scrutiny committee and be a part of the budget monitoring process. Because it's all well and good making promises, but if you make promises, you've got to stand by those promises and deliver. Standard deliverers.
I hear what you say, but the difficulty we've got is we spend 1.6 billion gross a year. So the monitoring report is already long. If we're going to start picking particular items.
This is a major promise on behalf of the leading group in this council.
I'm just saying, if we were going to pick out specific items.
It's not you, I'm making an argument.
I know you're not. No, that's far from it. What I'm trying to say is that we'd have to pick out individual lines across it. That report would be very long. Yeah, because you'll be looking at, is it staffing you want to look at in addition to agency workers? Is it transport as well? Which suppliers do you want to pick on? You know what I mean? It's really difficult. So you have to take it that it is reflected in the forecast in terms of if agencies working coming down. But that doesn't stop a request to go on to maybe onto something to be looked at in its separate to the monetary report around the use of a particular item in terms of scrutiny. Yeah.
May I just offer a solution? I think so. I might be wrong on this, but isn't the process, there's a cabinet working group on efficiencies been set up, that will surely have to report back on the savings found, surely.
And that might be the way to do that.
And then we just refer that to here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm putting in myself. Yes, I think Councillor Matthews will be able to quantify what he is doing in a smaller way, which is not your responsibility for the full authority, to give some answer to Councillor Lawton to the specific question you're asking. So I believe you might not get it in a full annual 151 folder report because that would just be too much. But I think we can, in some form, get it to you, Councillor Lawton.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
I'm sure we can do it some way or another. Councillor Fox, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, just on the risks, Nigel, we've identified. Which of these risks are the most significant in their potential impact on the budget?
Thank you. And another good question. It's straightforward demands. So, but in social care, both in children's and adults, and that's the significant amount. There will be, when I say that, the one that we spend most of our money in is additional money is in adult social care and is in children.
Okay. So what we're doing to mitigate that risk?
Again, there are plans in place within adult social care, which we call a sustainability plan, to try and see what we can do. So it's about ensuring what our strategies is, and there's a portfolio of change, which I think at some stage will come to committee in terms of an update around transformation. So that will probably help colleagues understand what we're doing in terms of mitigating some of those additional pressures, and we'll just reflect that in our normal budget cycle as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Clooney.
I did have a couple of questions. So going back to this on page 12, the table on there about these underspends we're expecting on transport, environment and education. And so can you say a little bit about, I know it's relatively small amounts in the whole budget, but can you say a little bit about why there's projected savings there?
No, thank you. In terms of, I think the vast majority within the transport and environment, one of the savings is around home to school transport.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah. The one on education and send, again, it will be around staffing savings. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say you had another question, Councillor? You all right? Would anybody else like to, I always know you, John. I'll save you till last. Is anybody else? Councillor Wilmot?
Set me for that. That's the normal procedure.
Lovely. Last one then, John.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair, for allowing me to come back. I just wondered what activity is being carried out to ensure the necessary services in the budget are still delivered, even after the savings requested have been removed from the budget. That's and also I've just seen that 7.72 million of reserves have been taken out of the reserves to put in the back of the capital programme. Is that spending, will that overstretch the money that might be needed for emergencies?
Right. So thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, you'll find around performance that they'll come to the various scrutiny committees, which they'll manage around whether their performance in terms of those aspects. So I'll leave the performance to the right committee if you don't like.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, they're right question to be asked at those scrutiny meetings.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah. So, in terms of reserves, yes, we do use some reserves to meet the capital programme. Some of those because we've received money from grant money from other organisations in advance of the work taking place, and we put them into reserves. And therefore, it looks like on the report that we're drawing down from reserves. So it's not impacting on our reserves. It's just effectively using somebody else's money. It was the technical bit about getting money in advance.
Thank you.
Lovely. And so I shall ask Martin read out the summary? Would please.
I think the only additional thing we've got there is, as Councillor Smith mentioned, I think when the Cabinet Working Group was reported that a report on the outcomes of that review come along to our review, because we are for highways review that's taking place, we are having the outcomes of that come to place. So I think it can do the same for the petitions that want to come to our review.
Lovely. So just to confirm with everybody that all of their points have been covered on the finance report. Lovely. If we want to take a show of hands on that report, then please, if we're happy. That's lovely. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I don't know whether you have elsewhere to be, or would like to remain.
Get to school, someone.
Get to school. I want a for sale sign up by the end of the week.
Or perhaps a week after next.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 5, improving healthy female life expectancy in Nottinghamshire. I would like to ask Councillor Dawn Justice, Cabinet Member for Communities and Public Health, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're here to discuss the findings and recommendations from the 2024-2025 annual report by the Director of Public Health and Communities, which focuses on women's health in Nottinghamshire. This is an independent report by the Director of Public Health and Communities, which is a statutory responsibility for DPH in Robbins. This report highlights a concerning issue. Although women in our county live longer than men, they are spending significantly more years in ill health, with widening differences across socio-economic and geographic lines. Drawing on insights from nearly 1,000 women and girls, the report explores barriers to healthcare access, how women do not feel listened to, and the impact of conditions such as the menopause and mental health. It also identifies key areas for system-wide improvement, including improving access to services, trauma-informed care, and better support in the workplace. Today's meeting is an opportunity for us to consider these findings, assess what we can do to implement the recommendations, and ensure that the voices of women in Nottinghamshire continue to shape our council's priorities. And Ellie's got a video to show us. So there we go.
Momentary interlude.
Yeah.
Basically, the video helps support the report, which I'm sure you've all read. And I found when I watched the video, it really brought home quite a lot of the points that are in that report. So it's a really strong tool to put across this piece of work.
Fine. So it's got to be a camera, my computer start.
Sorry,
it's just, yeah, I'm very slow.
Is that the links coming through?
Waiting. It's gone through all right, I think.
And mine's broken off.
Yeah. We'll just want to pausing here.
Apologies for the delay that's coming through. I think really keen that we do get to show this video for you, not because you'll see my face on it, but because actually what we have done as part of the development of the Public House Annual Report for this next couple of years is we make sure that we reach out and speak to the women of Nottinghamshire. Because what we're seeing in Nottinghamshire, which is why we highlighted and put a spotlight on women's health within this year, is that having the number of years in good health for women is reducing. So although we know our women live longer than men, the number of years that they have in poor health is larger than that for men. And we really wanted to reach out to our community to understand what's different in Nottinghamshire than we're seeing across the national population, because the declining trends we're seeing nationally, but the rate and the decline or the speed that it was going in looked faster than in Nottinghamshire and other areas. So we knew there was something a little bit different in our population than what we're seeing nationally. So hopefully the reports come up and hopefully you find this engaging.
Hello, I'm Vivian Robbins and I'm the Director of Public Health and Communities for Nottinghamshire County Council. This is my first annual report and I'm using this opportunity to shine a light on women's health and the inequalities that our female population are currently facing. Women in Nottinghamshire are living longer than men but spend more years in ill health. We've heard from many women across our county and I would like for you to hear their voices too. In Nottinghamshire, there are over 430,000 women, making up to 51% of our population. Our women have a higher rate of disability than the national average across all age groups. The main causes for this are musculoskeletal conditions such as back pain, mental health disorders and gynecological conditions such as endometriosis.
The main issues that I've seen amongst women in my life have been things like PCOS and endometriosis, and I know that for a lot of the women that I've spoken to who've had these issues, they've taken a really long time to be able to even have that label and to get the help that they need.
I have met so many different people in the seniors club that we have coffees with here that have got similar issues to myself, either mental health or spine problems or arthritis problems.
Improving healthy behaviours for both women and men would have the greatest impact on early deaths. This includes reducing smoking and vaping, improving diet and increasing exercise. While progress has been made in reducing the number of people smoking in Nottinghamshire, reducing smoking during pregnancy remains a key area for improvement.
I would like women to have access to whatever they need to give them healthy years and for their lifespan to be at their maximum.
Access to contraception continues to be a key priority at a time and location convenient to women. Further work is required to support women to prevent unplanned pregnancies. Almost all women will experience menopause, where symptoms can severely impact on women's quality of life. Our research found this remains a taboo subject in Nottinghamshire, and there are inequalities in accessing treatment. We need better education on women's health conditions and understanding from employers.
So the menopause while working, wow, for me, it's been an absolute emotional roller coaster.
Women's voices are another crucial theme. Many women in our county feel their health concerns are not adequately heard or addressed. Our women describe feeling fobbed off and fighting to be heard.
So I don't really blame the healthcare professionals. They're trying to identify ways to tackle that issue, but at the same time I do think that I could have been treated with more empathy, and instead of perhaps being told that it was all in my head or it was just something that I would have had to deal with.
It is imperative that we listen to and validate women's experiences to provide comprehensive care.
It just seems like you're just a number. You've had it done, we'll get you out the door.
We really need to take the time to listen to what the women in Nottinghamshire need and what it is they want to change.
Poor mental health was a prominent issue for women in Nottinghamshire. Anxiety and depression were the most common health conditions in women under 50 from our survey. We must prioritise mental health support and reduce the stigma associated with seeking help.
Then she referred it, she thought I needed long-term counselling, and I'm still waiting for the referral, and that's 5 years this August.
Access to healthcare services remains a significant challenge for many women. Our survey reported 43% of respondents experienced barriers in accessing services, such as delays when needing to see female clinicians. Marginalised groups, including refugees, people seeking asylum, people who identify as LGBTQ+, and survivors of violence and abuse face additional barriers in accessing healthcare and support. They also experience poorer health outcomes than other women. It is essential that we address these inequalities.
I now generally choose to be seen by female clinicians because of my experiences of not being listened to.
There are several health conditions disproportionately impacting women later in life. Evidence suggests that women in Nottinghamshire are frailer than men and have a higher rate of hospital admissions for falls. We know many falls are preventable, and we are working together to address this across the health and care system.
Yeah, I think when you retire as a woman, you've worked all your life and you want to really enjoy your retirement, and it would be great to be fit and healthy to do that.
I've seen more of my friends navigate illnesses at an earlier age, seemingly more common.
The building blocks of health play a vital role in women's health. Lower educational levels, financial instability and community safety for women in Nottinghamshire are significant concerns, and we must work to improve these foundational aspects to support overall health and well-being.
I generally feel very safe in Nottinghamshire, but I don't feel safe walking on my own after dark generally.
I think that there's many things that contribute to people being in good health. From a non-health perspective in particular, having financial security, having good support systems, and being able to access and speak to the people that they need to when they do need help.
We recognise this work is just the beginning of our journey to supporting women's health. Through hearing these stories, we have developed recommendations to improve the health and well-being of our women in Nottinghamshire. Let me hand over to some women of Nottinghamshire to share these recommendations with you.
We and our partners have created a list of 10 recommendations to help improve the lives of women in Nottinghamshire. These recommendations are all of our responsibility to help drive change and reduce the number of years that women are living in ill health in our county.
Our first recommendation is to have a system-wide commitment to women's health from the Nottinghamshire Health and Wellbeing Board. This will ensure that we have a partnership approach to addressing the issues raised in this report.
Our next recommendation is to work with our place-based partnerships and communities to identify areas of the highest need so that we can work together in partnership to address inequalities.
Following our findings that so many women do not feel listened to, we want to ensure women are listened to more. Our recommendation is that we want to give women a voice and say in how their health is supported.
Women and girls' challenges with mental health has been one of the key findings of this report. We recommend working together with our partners to investigate what the barriers are for women to access support for their mental health and improve our signposting to offer support.
Our next recommendation is to continue to work with partners to reduce the rate of smoking in pregnancy in Nottinghamshire, and to work across the system to help women and girls to feel safe to exercise outside.
We heard from many women about their experiences of health in the workplace. Through our work and health programmes, we need to work together with our partners to understand how we can further improve this and keep women in the workforce.
Our next recommendation is that we would like to ensure that healthcare services are trauma-informed and take an increased role in early identification and support for survivors of abuse and violence.
Our recommendation to support marginalised women is to develop a framework for women experiencing severe multiple disadvantage to identify areas of good practice for women and areas for improvement.
Our next recommendation is to build upon the existing commitment in Nottinghamshire to use the principle of making every contact count. We want to ensure that our healthcare professionals are provided with the appropriate training, skills and enabling environment to have conversations about women's health and to support women to access the right care when they need it.
Our final recommendation is designed to support women in Nottinghamshire to age well. We will do this by investigating early deaths associated with colorectal cancer in our county, understanding the impact of musculoskeletal conditions on women's frailty, and continuing to investigate the gaps in data around women's health that we have found during this project.
Together, we can create a healthier future for all women in Nottinghamshire. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Ellie and Ben, for the work that was put in to putting that video together. And as Viv said, I think really that makes the whole topic accessible. Anyone who watches that video understands the challenges that are being faced. So basically, we're at a stage where we've got the report, and we've got to look forward from that. So it's like, we've got a report, so what? So what are we going to do next? There is a draft action plan obviously included in today's pack. And that shows the progress that's happening on the implementation of the recommendations so far. It is only a draft plan. It went to the Health and Wellbeing Board in June, and obviously that some of the work around that is the work from that workshop. We recognise that a lot of the work is done with partners. It's not a whole project for Nottinghamshire County Council, but obviously the key point is that there are systems within Nottinghamshire County Council, and it's looking at putting a different lens on them and trying to find a way to make sure that we as an organisation work towards achieving better health for women within our county. I think really that sums up what we're presenting today. So I'd like to return to the chair for any questions.
Viv, did you want to say anything more about your report before I asked to pass the report?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I think the annual report is always a way to put a spotlight on an area that we think is particularly important for Nottinghamshire. And I think what I just wanted to highlight with this report is it's not that we don't think that men's health is important, but I think it's really important that we acknowledge that there are differences in the outcomes that we're getting for women. And this isn't about setting up whole new programmes of work to do everything differently. It's, as Councillor Justice has just mentioned, it's about thinking about the way that we do it and thinking about that equity lens. So how can we tweak something slightly that will have better outcomes for women? But I hope that you enjoyed the report, and I hope that you found the report engaging, because this is a really important area for Nottinghamshire and particularly for Nottinghamshire's women. And just really keen to hear your feedback on that, but also thinking around how we can collectively work together to improve our outcomes.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to move those recommendations.
I'll second.
Thank you. And now I would like to open the floor to debate. Ever so sorry, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Viv. It's a very good report, actually, and obviously I know I had a conversation with you yesterday. I'd like to ask, or sort of just say that are we sort of, obviously the report is reliant on being able to access primary health care in an early instance, and how are we working with the Health and Wellbeing and Health Scrutiny to lobby the ICB to improve access, for example, to GP appointments? And then once you've got past that, should you, and obviously in your report you mentioned cancer, and then also access to hospital appointments, because continued care is actually lacking as much as initial appointments.
If you would like either.
So thank you for raising that point. So it is a really important point, and it's come through really strongly in the report around access to services, but also making sure that women get access to the right services that they need. Now, certainly we've had conversations with Health Scrutiny, we've had a number of conversations with the ICB about that. And obviously this is an ICB responsibility, not a council responsibility. But we do work really closely with our colleagues across the health service to think around how can we work with them to make sure, one, that they are empowered to increase access as much as possible, but think around also how they can understand their local population to tweak the needs of that. So there might be differences in the way that people need to access services in Mansfield as they might do in County, for example. So I suppose there's something around, really keen to think around if there are future recommendations that we want to do, we can absolutely take those conversations forward and have some conversations with Health Scrutiny around what they would do. There has been quite a lot of work with Health Watch around access to GP appointments, and there has been quite a lot of conversations in the system around that. I think the other thing that will be really interesting coming forward is the 10-year health plan has fairly recently been published, and that talks a lot around how we develop more integrated neighbourhoods health services, and that's an area that we're working collectively around, because we're really keen to think around how do we make sure that services are as local as possible, are as accessible as possible, but are also tailored to our individual communities. And that work will be driven through the Health and Wellbeing Board, as well as with broader system partners. So there's a range of ways that we can connect and work with those. Obviously, we don't have the actual responsibility for primary care, but we do work really closely with our colleagues. And if we want to have some further conversations, that's something that we we can always take those recommendations through to House Scrutiny if that's something that they would like to look at.
And sort of following on from that, would it, because obviously there is sort of an inequality between sort of city, town and rural areas. So rural areas have great difficulty accessing GP appointments because there aren't normal surgeons, or very few.
Absolutely, and I think that's the difference in having a rural county, isn't it? The inequalities that some of our populations face are different to the inequalities that you might see within an inner city, for example. And those are things that we work really closely with the ICB to make sure that they're considering and that they are looking into. And one thing that I would highlight though is as much as GP access is really, really important, we know that access to healthcare services only actually contributes to 20% of your overall health and well-being. And you will have seen in the video earlier that actually it's those building blocks of good health and well-being that wrap around us that actually contribute to a bigger proportion of our health and well-being. So if we've got good, strong homes, if we've got access to services, if we've got strong and thriving communities, we've got good education and good work, actually they give us more protective factors than just being able to access our healthcare provision. So as much as it's a really important issue, I think one of the things I'm trying to emphasise there is there are lots of things that we can all do, and just concentrating on access to GP services, which obviously we would like to get the best that we can have in the future.
Are you more up to that?
Thank you, and thank you. It's a very good report and very informative. The only thing I would recommend, which I think is a fundamental recommendation, is I did a degree in sports science and management, and obviously we covered nutrition. I believe at primary school age it should be mandatory to be diet and nutrition lessons be taught at primary schools. That would be beneficial for both women's and men's health, and also it would inform people on what is a good diet and what's going to be beneficial as you grow. And it could also be good for biological health and also mental health, because it plays a key part. You eat the right foods, it can change your mood. It's completely beneficial when worked alongside exercise as well. So it'd be extremely beneficial, and I think that should be a recommendation. In the near future we ought to be having primary schools deliver lessons on diet and nutrition.
Councillor Pott. I'm sorry.
Just in response to that, if I may, Madam Chair. We do a lot of work with our schools anyway, because we know that having the best start to life and those early years are absolutely critical in terms of predicting what your lifelong health and well-being will be and your broader outcomes. So we do a range of work with schools anyway. Schools do have a range of lessons like PHSE lessons where they do bring in work around healthy diet. I know my kids are bringing them back to me at the moment. So there is that already built into the curriculum. But we do also commission the Healthy Families Programme, which is a public health service from 0 to 19, which will link in some of those services. And we're really strong that we make sure that we're building those strong relationships with food and habits in terms of physical activity, as well as good nutrition. And some of those have been highlighted in the report as well. Sorry, Ellie, did you?
I was just going to add, there's also lots of work going on within Nottinghamshire around the Sustainable Food Network and our food plan, and there's lots of work in that around supporting families with a holistic environment around food, because we know that there are many children living in food insecure households, and therefore they're much more likely to be accessing high fat, sugar, processed diets. And we've been doing a lot of work, and so we're about to do a lot of work in early years settings as well. So it is something that we're absolutely doing within the Public Health and Communities Division as well.
Thank you very much.
Councillor.
Viv, Ellie, and please accept great regards for the detailed report. It's really is detailed. Thank you. And I know, Viv, you're aware, and a number of others are aware of my personal circumstances and why I'm interested in this. On the action plan that you've developed, how are the stakeholders and delivery partners been involved in the work on to create this action plan?
So this is the draft action plan. So within that, if there are any additional comments, or we're very happy to bring those in. This is work that's been developed through. We had a Health and Wellbeing Board workshop in July, where we brought a range of partners together. And correct me if I'm wrong, 40 people. 40 or 50 people attended that workshop from across the system. So it was a real partnership approach in terms of, we understand that this is a collective issue. This isn't something for one of us. So what we will be doing is building that, once we've got the action plan defined, into the work of the Joint Health and Wellbeing Strategy, which is led by the Health and Wellbeing Board. So it will be very much a partnership approach. And as you'll see through the actions that we've got, some actions are specific for particular partners. So when we talk about access to healthcare services, for example, we'll be looking at our health colleagues to support us around that. When we've got further examples around what can we do as anchor institutions, the County Council are one of those big public sector organisations that employs a lot of women. And there will be actions that we will take through, and I will lead through corporately with colleagues across the organisation and obviously our elected members in terms of what can we do, because actually we can contribute quite a lot in terms of the way that we're supporting women to stay in work and be healthy in work. So there's a range of different ways that we will do it, but the key way that we will monitor progress will be through the Health and Wellbeing Board and Joint Health and Wellbeing Strategy.
Thank you. And how often are we going to be updating the action plan?
So in terms of the actual update, there will be regular updates as part of the Joint Health and Wellbeing Strategy that goes through the Health and Wellbeing Board. So if colleagues are interested in those, we can make sure that you're interested. We can obviously bring back an update if that's something else that you would like to see. And we will be bringing annual updates in terms of the work of the broader Public Health and Communities Division. So we can also bring it into there. So it's up to you in terms of how much level of engagement that you would like to see. But please do be assured that we will be actively monitoring progress and supporting partners collectively to move these recommendations forward.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Lawton, did you want to question?
Yeah, just a quick one, but really just a feed-in really. Quite a number of the recent coroner's reports are showing that particularly where women have fallen foul of the mental health system. A lot of the consultants, it's a male-dominated environment, and they, on quite a number of occasions, are found to have the inability of being able to deal with women effectively. And quite a number of women have suffered in the past in this particular area. I'm just wondering, well, when you're talking to the ICB, if you could just highlight that as a significant issue. Without, you've just got to look at those coroner's reports to realise what is happening, and is a disproportionate number of women are being affected by the lack of treatment that they deserve as far as the mental health services. Whilst the whole system isn't performing well, it's not performing well at all for women. It's just really that comment, really, more than anything else.
Thank you. Is there anybody else with a question? Councillor Clue.
It's not quite kind of is a question. I want to say thank you very much for the report. It's really, really interesting. I found it absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for focusing on this really important issue, especially. But I'm really glad to see so many women in this committee today, which I think is really good, and also given the lack of female representation on this council, so it was really important from that point of view. My question is about how can we get involved? What can we do in our divisions? I'm sure there's lots of organisations dealing with these issues within our divisions, but it'd be really useful to know where they are and how we could assist.
I had thought about this a little bit myself, because obviously we are talking about working with partners a lot of the time. So when we're working with the NHS, the ICB, that's one thing. But thinking about the organisation, which is Nottinghamshire County Council, and what we can do. And I was thinking about things like getting members to have a better understanding of this report, and maybe an opportunity to see the video. And then thinking about what work they can do in their constituencies and their particular areas. And also looking at the County Council as an employer, and it was also alluded to that, and what the whole council can do. Are we a menopause friendly organisation, for example? What extra support can we as an employer give to the employees? Were two things that came to mind with that question when it raised itself in my mind. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
Thank you, Councillor Justin. I think you've raised some really important points there, because we know that some of the evidence has come out, particularly if we take menopause as an example. We know that some women choose to drop out of the workforce around that time of life because they're struggling with many of the symptoms that they've got around menopause. So I think there's one thing around supporting reducing the taboo around menopause and perimenopause, and really supporting women to get access to the services that they need to help them through that phase of life. We know that there are inequalities around getting things such as hormone replacement treatment, and we're having conversations with our NHS colleagues around what we can do to support that. But I think there is something around how we can all wrap around and support each other in that phase. But I do think there is a strong role for the fact that many of us will be working with a number of women, or will be employing large numbers of women. And I think if we can have a little bit of flexibility around, it might be things around working pattern, it might be around making sure that we've got access to those services and that support, that will help maintain and keep women in the workforce, which is good for their health and well-being, it's good for an economic point of view. But it also helps the fact that we know that many women are carers as well. So whether that's caring for the young, or whether that's caring for the older generation. So I think there's something around how we can all wrap around in terms of this, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, or whether it's through our organisations.
Councillor Wilmot.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm very much involved with women's health in the Health and Wellbeing Board as a member, and also with the NHS meetings I go to regularly, and I'm also going to a doctor's surgery as a board member, and also I also go to many community groups and churches. And one of the main issues is the problems that ladies and young children are having at the present time. Really serious, and the challenges are immense. The first major challenge is the health service is overstretched at the present time, and with the ever increasing population in Nottinghamshire, it's going to be even worse. And how we're going to address that situation is very, very serious. It really is. And now, the three major problems that we're dealing with at the moment and talking about it in the Health and Wellbeing Board is the serious issue of smoking, drug taking, and of course the mental health problem, which are really serious issues. And we really need extra funding on this. As groups, all of us should be getting in touch with the government, asking for some help on this situation, because it really is serious. And of course, the areas of deprivation, real problem. And can I say that when we identify these areas of deprivation where poor health is relevant, hoping that you look at the distribution of the money to make sure.
Darling, have you got a question on this report? We agree with everything you're saying. Not a problem with what you're saying, but can we do the report?
Because I say the violence against women is on the increase. Are the police, the councils and the health service working together enough in Nottinghamshire? That's a big question. And I've got 2 or 3 other questions. And actually, these are all questions. There's 9 questions, but I know it's impossible to ask them all. I'm just trying to bring out all the issues.
Well, you said that was more of a
doing my best. I'm doing my best.
We all agree with everything you said. We all agree with, but we're trying to pin it down to these reports. So
yeah, just put one question anyway. And I've got another one afterwards. It's another serious issue.
Yes. So in terms of are we working together enough as a system around some of these issues, particularly around violence against women and girls, I think there's been quite a lot of work recently done. So we fairly recently had a new violence in women and girls strategy that was led by the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. And that really sets out some of the real ambitions around how do we support women, because we know that we have poorer outcomes for women, particularly around sexual violence and domestic abuse. and that many of our women do not feel safe, as you would have heard in the video, in terms of going out to exercise and things like that. So there is a system approach around some of those areas of work. Some of those are being led through the Health and Wellbeing Board, but the other key partnership arrangement is the Safer Nottinghamshire Board, which does a lot around community safety. And there are particular priorities there, which cover many of your points there, actually, Councillor Wilmot, in terms of how are we supporting survivors of domestic abuse, how are we reducing the risk. We know that there's a lot of evidence around a lot of serious crime can also be linked into domestic abuse, so how are we supporting that? But also doing a lot of work around people who, you may have heard the term before, who have severe multiple disadvantage. So we know that there are people in our population that have a number of complexities and barriers within their lives. That means that their outcomes are poorer, and we're doing specific work around those. So they might be people that are homeless, they might have mental health considerations, they might have domestic abuse, or they might have substance use areas that they really need support with. So there's a range of different areas that we are working on. Those are the Health and Wellbeing Board and the Safer Nots Board are the key to partnership areas, but they do have very broad membership around that. And we are also really building in that stronger ethos around building blocks of good health and wellbeing, because if your building blocks are strong to begin with, we know that we can prevent a number of these different areas, and we also know that the evidence is really strong. If you are lucky enough to be brought up in a really strong and supportive family, that also has a really protective factor. So linking into some of the work around trauma-informed practice, because we know that if you have adverse childhood experiences, then that can have a lifelong impact on you, and how can we support the prevention of those in the first place? If we have our population that have unfortunately experienced some of those, what are we doing to support those as a system and wrap around them and not make people have to relive some of those experiences? So those are some of the key themes that are being picked up here, but also already picked up in other areas across the system.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question's already been answered, because mine was around the safety of making women feel safe, like you say, to go out and exercise. Because we all know full well that exercise is not just good for your physical health, but also for your mental health. So, is it possible to, to look around for like safe areas for women to walk, like a particular park, or, is that something that you're looking at or could be considered maybe?
We can certainly look into that, and there's a lot of work going on at the moment, and I'm just going to look at what it's called. Walk in My Shoes campaign by Notts Police. So what they've done is they've asked women to map the areas where they don't feel safe, and then as part of that, they're going to look at what they can do to ensure that people do feel safer in those spaces, whether that's increased patrols or police expert, but whether that's lighting, working with district borough councils and county council, there's lots of opportunities for thinking about how they can make them feel safer. So I would really recommend looking at that campaign. It's really impactful and really interesting as well.
Yeah, and that was actually, I actually saw that on the news one day, and I was looking at that, and that, hopefully the news might pick that up once that mapping's been done, so that that becomes knowledge that certain areas would be strengthened by extra patrols and so on.
Thank you, Madam
Chair. Councillor Vernon.
Thank you. As a very young man, you'll be surprised to hear I've been through 2 of these menopauses with 2 very beautiful women. I didn't hear anything about teaching us how to help you. First time around was hell on wheels for both of us. The second time around, because I understood more, although I was more aware, I found that being too patronising, too helpful, triggered it. And all these different issues, I struggled through 2 menopauses to help the woman. Maybe some help and advice more for the men.
I think that's really valid. That's a great suggestion. Thank you. We can think about how we can link that in, because we have talked about conversations for women around how they're experiencing menopause, but there's also how do the men work through that as well. So we can absolutely take that back and build that in. So
thank you.
I just might interject myself there. It was one of the things I was looking to put in. Men do go through the menopause. It might be externally to the actual person, but trust me, if you're sleeping in the same bed, you are absolutely going through the same syndrome of midnight panics, etc., etc. So I think it would be very beneficial for something to produce for gentlemen to give them some idea of what life has in store for them too. Councillor Cox.
Yeah, just from a success point of view, how are we going to measure our success, on the results of what we're seeing?
So really great question, so thank you very much for that. So our overarching outcome is healthy life expectancy. We've got to be realistic though, it takes a number of years to see the difference in healthy life expectancy. So it's not something that I would expect the next data point to see, and there's often lack of data anyway. But that would be our overarching goal, that's our North Star. Underneath that though, there are certain things that we know contribute specifically to improving healthy life expectancy. So the number of years you have in good health. And we know in particular for women, they are things like mental health conditions. We know there are significant things around gynecology and musculoskeletal disease. So what we can do is we can measure where we are with those particular indicators to find, are we on the right route and are we on the right line? And there are other measures that are particularly mentioned in the report. So one that I'd like to see a quicker return on in terms of change is something like our smoking in pregnancy indicator, for example. So we know in Nottinghamshire that we have higher rates of women that are smoking in pregnancy. And that's something that we're specifically going to target. So I suppose it will be a bit of a range in terms of some of those what I'd like to see quicker wins, and some of those will be more of a slower burn. But again, all of those outcomes are measured through the Joint Health and Wellbeing Strategy and come through the Health and Wellbeing Board. And you'll also see, I think it's at the next meeting actually, that we will bring you a full report of what we call is the Public Health Outcomes Framework. And that is a full list. You'll be enjoying every indicator, I'm sure, which gives us a real good summary of where we are in Nottinghamshire. So you will have that on an annual basis as well. So there'll be a range of ones.
Thank you.
Any more, John? Yeah,
My final question. Thank you. It's a known fact that prevention is far better than cure, and it's also our marginalised groups have a serious problem in navigating health services. What are we going to do about that? Those two issues.
I don't mind. So one of the things we've got, particularly for women, is we've got a women's SMD groups covering those with severe multiple disadvantage. And one of those things that we're really looking at is what support can be put in place to support those women to access healthcare services, be that women living in refuges, who survivors of domestic abuse, be that women who've been homeless or roofless. So what we've been trying to do is target those specific groups. We've got some specific projects happening in some of our areas, like in our substance use service, we've got specialist women's workers. We've had some specific women's work happening with some of our supported housing providers. So we've got this group of partners specifically working towards how we are supporting those particularly vulnerable and marginalised women in order to support them to access those services and to treat them holistically as well and to understand their care as a whole. There's also been a series of programmes how we're working towards improving access to contraception, for example. So there's a series of things that we're doing within that partnership space that are allowing us to think about how we can support those women in particular.
And prevention?
And in terms of prevention, the key theme of what we're trying to do here from a public health and communities point of view is increase prevention of early health and reduce health inequalities. So I would say that is the bread and butter of what we're trying to do through all of the services that we deliver and how we work with partners across the system. So there will be specific things which we've highlighted in terms of some of the action plan, in terms of what we might want to do slightly differently to make sure that particularly has a greater outcome on women. But I think for me, that's part of the broader work that we would do across the division normally.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the report. Found it really interesting. Under the draft action plan, there's 10 themes. I'm presuming we can't run them all out at once. Have we prioritised any?
So some of them we've already done in terms of the first one, and the Health Wellbeing Board, and they've endorsed the work and are one bit. So that one's already done. I suppose for me, that's not necessarily highlighting which ones we've got within the recommendations, but there will be specific actions within the recommendations which we can implement quicker than others. And depending on what those actions are, will depend on how much they are. We've got an example and do come in on this. We've already had a conversation with some of the integrated care board around how can we provide non-contraceptive LARC, for example, which is basically coils, for people that have it for a gynecological issue rather than for a contraceptive issue. So some of those things are already in trail. In comparison to things like how can we support better outcomes for women from an education and economic development point of view, those ones will take. So I think it will be a little range on there. But Ellie, I don't know if there was any that you wanted to particularly highlight that we're. I think what will likely follow from this is a really early iteration. So there's already been, so we've sent this out to partners and we've already had 30 bits of feedback that we're then further collating and kind of holding the ring on, I guess. There's a few things that I think we could easily split them into kind of short, medium and long-term actions. So we can see where we've got potential quick wins and where we've got things that are going to take significantly longer, like Viv has said. So that will likely follow as a further appendix moving forwards in terms of, and we'll be able to pick ones that we've got specific actions happening and we'll be able to report on their progress versus ones that are going to require getting the right people around the table, having those conversations, thinking about where there's opportunities for utilising, for example, national investment, those sorts of things that will just take a bit longer. But the important thing that we're having now is we're getting in those conversations and we're starting those conversations through this report, and it's really highlighted its importance. So we're definitely moving in the right direction, which is really, really promising.
So basically, as the information comes back, then you might, in certain areas, that area you're not going to actually prioritize. Yeah, get what I said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Klaus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's fantastic to scrutinize all this. I'm very excited. Especially this area, the health well-being. My recommendation is to add on the exercise bit. This is the number one rules for the for any adult or anybody who's going through the mental issues, and so I think there should be some fund available for those areas, especially for the exercise. Like a special concession for the people who we can see the area they need help. So it does, give you another dimension in your life. To exercise daily, if you can't. This is number one remedy for the medicine, exercise. If you go to doctor, they will give you this rules, this is golden rules. So I highly recommend this is need to be highlighted all the time. And if you can recommend to all our colleagues and councillors and all the world. So if they see anything, they can notice, people need those sort of area help for exercise ways. I think this is need to be more promoted from our side, so the public can be aware of this, beginning for them, for the health well-being. And the number two is the dietary. I think that's very, very important for anybody. If they don't eat well, they're not going to be well. That's just my point of view. So I need you guys to look into this area, if you can, to make aware of it. And all the colleagues of ours need to get, bulletin now and again, if you can, to, encourage them to, if they see anything, any resident need help. There's a lot of people need help everywhere. So we're not just okay to talk about here in making our name and, in the media. So, we had a chat and no actions, we talk. So we make sure with our committee members here, we need to work together, not divisions. So I will recommend, whoever it is in this committee, please get together, work for our generation, our women especially. They are important bone for our community. They are the backbone of our community. So if they do well, and will be.
I think we're all in agreement with you. I don't think there was a question there.
If I didn't make any.
I'm just looking at the time.
Just trying to work together. Thank you.
I'm going to get Martin to sum up here, please, so we can move on to the other items.
I think we had a really good discussion, which is great. Just a couple of things to point out. Just to know, if you remember, because it was quite a while ago, Viv did mention about the work that's been done to support thriving communities, and that's something that's on the overview work programme for later in the year that members were able to get involved with contributing to what that looks like. The other thing to know is the work of the Safer Nottinghamshire Board does come to place scrutiny every year. That'll be coming in March next year, and obviously we have a good discussion on that, but that goes to place. From this meeting on this item, I think if we can work out a way of progress on the delivery of the activities of the action plan is circulated to members, but we can work out with Viv how would be the most appropriate way to do that. And also that we work with Viv to work out how members across the council can be supported to promote the report in their own divisions and how to promote improving women's health in their divisions. Of course, that's a really important thing to do. It's something where members can make a big impact. I think that's it.
That's lovely then. So are we happy to take a show of hands on that report, please? That is super. Thank you so much. And if I'd like to thank the cabinet member, if she's got to go, please do. And thank you very much for the officers on that one. Thank you so much. With that, scrutiny item number 6 is the scrutiny annual report for 24-25. I will introduce.
Sorry about that. Can I excuse? I've got a few more to do.
Of course you can, Councillor Barley. And Michael, is there any on the? Sorry, I was introducing the Scrutiny Annual Report 24-25. The Scrutiny Annual Report 24-25 highlights the important work carried out by Overview Committee and the 3 select committees over the past year as Scrutiny continues to support and deliver the county's vision of building a stronger, more prosperous Nottinghamshire for all our residents. This year's report also marks the conclusion of 3 years of scrutiny activity under the previous councillor's administration. As such, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our scrutiny members, co-opted members and cabinet colleagues, both past and present, as well as to the council officers for their dedication and contribution to delivering meaningful scrutiny over this time. I especially like to thank the previous chairman and vice chairman of the Overview Committee, whose work and commitment since the reintroduction of the executive decision-making and scrutiny in 2022 has helped to create the robust and effective scrutiny function that we have here in Nottinghamshire. 24-25 was a particularly active year with 19 committee meetings and 5 in-depth task and finish reviews taking place. This work enables members to hold division makers to account, improve services, policies and services, and ensure that the council remains responsive to the needs of our communities. Key areas of focus during the last years included the budget scrutiny, suggested further improvements and for our outstanding blue badge application service, the progress being made in SEND provision, the council's response to the severe flooding following Storm Babette, and the use of technology to support more residents to live more independently in their own homes. Looking ahead, 25-26 promises to be another busy year, and I look forward to working with all members and officers to continue to deliver high quality scrutiny that makes a positive impact for Nottinghamshire residents. And with that, I would like to move the recommendation.
I'll second.
Lovely. And then if anybody would like to ask any questions on that or debate the report. Councillor Wilmot.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the scrutiny annual report looks superb work being done. There's no doubt about that over a period of time. Because scrutiny really needs to make a meaningful impact. And when we're debating issues, we've got to make sure that the necessary experts, the selected residents, organisations and communities involved in the makeup of any action plan need to be involved and invited to the meetings. That's one of the big major things that I think a lot of councils haven't gone it too far down the line. It's essential that you make the right decision, and you will only make the right decision if you have the right people there with the expert issues that they can bring forward. On the whole programmes, much of the work I can see behind the scenes it is being done. I'm just a little bit worried about the new family hubs. I would like to hit more about those and how they're progressing. And also our tourism situation, with so much tourism in Nottinghamshire, and yet much of it is not brought to the fore to bring people into this area. We need to improve that situation. And we also, there are a number of empty premises all over Nottinghamshire. We need to make sure that businesses all around the country know about these issues to make sure that some of these places can be taken up and brought more businesses into Nottinghamshire. And with that, it's an excellent report, and there is scrutiny being done, I do know, but there are issues that need to be addressed. Thank you, Chair.
Not a problem. I believe if you look at the work programme, all the things that you've just mentioned have been agreed to be put through scrutiny.
Oh yeah. But
so while you're raising them, you should have come, Councillor Wilmot. I believe he was invited.
I was trying to get onto the screen, but unfortunately
you wasn't allowed in. But we did discuss all of these, and it was. It is on our work programme. So everything you have mentioned as issues or would need to be looked at is down for this year, my love.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah.
In my opinion, these are the issues that need to be looked at more than any of the others. Thank you.
They're in the programme, John.
Yeah, I know that.
Is there any more questions on the previous year's scrutiny report? Councillor Smith. No. Councillor Clooney?
Yeah, I wanted to say, really excellent report. It shows what a lot of scrutiny stuff was done in the last year. But I am just going to fall upon something that I think which I noticed a minute ago. Not sure it's appropriate for you to be calling Councillor Wilmot love. So
I do apologise. I have 40 years in retail, and everybody's sweetheart, darling, or love. And I do apologise.
I've no issue, Madam Chairman, if you call me love.
I do not mean it.
She definitely won't be calling me darling.
I do not mean it in any negative way.
Oh, the last thing I am is PC.
And if there was any offence, I do apologise.
There's no offence, Chair.
Are we happy to pass the 24-25?
Yes, love.
Yes, love.
If it's taken in the spirit it was meant, I I'm sure by the end of the 4 years, I will actually call Councillor Smith.
That's the worst thing
as
to come
well.
out of
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's all everything from the pig to the dog, so loves.
And I'm sorry if you was offended.
Oh, no, it's not, no, not really.
The scrutiny work programmes,
Jesus.
Hertfordshire.
Move
Scrutiny
on.
work programmes,
Yeah, good.
it's shorter, thank goodness. Agenda item 7, scrutiny work programmes. The scrutiny work programmes included in the agenda pack have been created to support the planning and management of scrutiny committee meetings, agendas to support committee members with their forward planning. All the first meetings of overview committee and the 3 select committee meetings held after May elections, members received presentations on the work and priorities of the department of the council that were relevant for each committee. After receiving this information, members were then able to make suggestions on potential items for inclusion on each committee's new work programme. Meetings were subsequently held with the chairman and the vice chairman of each committee alongside a member from the other political groups who had representation on each committee in order to prioritise the list of suggestions items for inclusion on each work programme. Work was then carried out with senior officers in each department to schedule the items requested by members into the work programmes. Work programmes for each committee will be reviewed regularly and pre-agenda and at committee meetings to ensure that the scrutiny activity carried out by members continues to support the delivery of the ambitions of the Nottinghamshire Plan and remain focused on issues that are the priorities of residents. I will move that report as it is written. Lovely. Would anybody like to just thank Councillor Smith?
Thank you. See, no love there. Couldn't believe it. That was the opportunity there.
Please speak, sweetheart.
Oh, there we go. Right, thank you. I thought the way that you have gone about, Chairman, building this work programme should be celebrated. I think it was very cross-party, really good to bring us all together straight after the election and come up with this, which is great. So well done to you for doing that. Can I just, that's where the niceness stops because I'm not happy. Can I just point to page 106? So council buildings and property, I'm going to call it rationalisation because that's what it is programmed to be brought to this committee on the 7th of May 2026, which is a year after the election. There's loads of meetings before that where other things that I wouldn't necessarily say are such a big priority are before that date. We are sitting in a building today that is costing this council and every taxpayer we represent £7.5 million to run each year, £30 million in the long term to bring up to standard, and we've got Oak House that's empty nearly. I think it's a huge priority. If you going back to what are we all right? Going back to what Nigel and the cabinet member for finance said earlier about savings and investing in residents' priorities. We need to bring that forward because that's where you're going to get your money from. Nigel needs the money now, not in May 26. Can we bring that forward, please?
I think that's a matter for debate, though, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, you know, as a recommendation, you're sort of suggesting that we change that plan round for Oak House and this house, but obviously we've got to review all of it, and we're still going under that review at the moment.
But I want the item to bring it
No, he just
forward
wants
as a whole.
to bring it forward to this committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Martin's noted it.
Thank you.
Because obviously planning of these goes around what reports go into the offices.
Yeah.
So, yes, I agree with you.
Oh, minute that, Martin.
And, well, I did agree with you in the proposal meeting.
We've noted the request and it'll be considered.
Thank you very much.
So it is not me, unfortunately, that has the last thing.
We're not going to discuss it now, but we've noted your request and it will be discussed with the chair and vice chair and senior officers.
If it can be done, I would like it also. So if it can be done, it will be done.
Bracken, thank you very much.
Other than that, I can't say any further.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a clue.
Fine. I've got a question about on page 103 about the local government reorganisation item. to consider draft business case. I believe our meeting is the day before we have to submit that proposal.
We're looking at having an additional meeting.
Okay.
But if you look, it is just called it's down as November, not the 27th of November.
Oh, sorry, I was assuming it was that.
Yeah, so
okay, yeah.
So we'll be looking to have a meeting much earlier.
Okay.
In November. Just got to agree a date and approach, but it won't be the day before. So
okay, thank you.
Any more questions on that report? Wow. To be agreed at this early stage is lovely.
Yeah. Can I just say, just note with what Councillor Wilmot said, there's a briefing for place members on visitor economy framework, and the family hubs is coming to children and families on their work programme. So
Can you repeat that, please?
there's a briefing on visitor economy framework going to place, and family hubs is down on the children and families work programme. So the issues that Councillor Wilmot mentioned are on there.
Great, yeah, because I brought the family hubs up at the last meeting.
You did. Can we take a show of hands on that?
Oh, sorry, I've just.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Clooney.
I think it was just a typing error on page 118. It mentions the items to be scheduled for 26, 27. Does it actually? I did not mean that actually. Get about it. Is that items that we're going to take forward to the next year? Page 118. Items to be scheduled.
No, that is correct. Yeah.
It is, okay.
Yeah, because the that scrutiny review is only going to cabinet in November, so we generally give things a year from when they've been accepted by cabinet before review. So that's why it's projected for next year.
Okay, yeah. Apologies, thank you.
Can we just do the show of hands again then, please?
Yeah.
So unanimous. Thank you so much, everybody. It was a lovely meeting today. Thank you.